Hello everybody, my name is Luke Marr and this is Hot Mode, and today on Hot Mode we are coming to you with your June 2022 fashion roast and review. I'll be breaking down all of the important looks that you need to know about from the month of June. And now if you are a channel member, you know that there is a channel members only roast that you can go and see. If you are not a channel member, go down. $1 a month. It's not bad, I promise. And you can, join the wonderful, beautiful people that are channel members and see a much longer roast video. And before we begin, I also have to say, if you guys are not subscribers to Hot Mode, you should be. So go click that subscribe button and also hit the like button, comment something, help with engagement. Do your best. Without further ado, let's get into this review. First up, Anne Hathaway. Now, I have to talk about this Anne Hathaway look because she was doing it and wearing it next to Lisa from Blackpink. I feel like everybody and their mother was like, oh my god, Lisa, Anne Hathaway, icon, legend stars. It was a cute moment. She is wearing a Valentino look now. It is from the spring 2022 ready-to-wear collection. It's not haute couture. And essentially it is a long sort of sleeved top that flows to the ground, almost creates sort of, I don't want to say a caftan moment because it's not really a caftan at all, but it has a very sort of flowy, long robe feeling. And then it's just paired with a really yellow short in a matching satin. It's big, it's bold, it's beautiful. It's been paired with a simple sort of peep toe white sandal shoe instead of the Valentino gladiator sandal full of the Valentino rock studs. It was a Bulgari event, it was like yellow or something because Lisa and Anne were both wearing yellow. I'm not sure, I don't know. But it was a cute look. I was intrigued by it. I think a lot of the times, once a season has sort of gone on, everybody and their mother is probably like, oh my god, fall 2022, that's what we're gonna wear, or Valentino PP Pink. But I think that this collection from spring was really, really good. Very strong. A lot of nice references back to the history and heritage of Valentino. So I think that's what we're seeing here. I also think the color, this bright yellow on Anne, is a similar complexion to me, is not exactly the first color one would necessarily choose, but I think that she's proven that it doesn't matter. As long as you sell the garment, you can look great in any color. I think the fact that this is like a shirt that hits the floor, but there's also a short, gives it a regality, a little bit of opulence, a little bit of dressiness. It has that sort of stature, but it's also very casual. It's literally a short. She's wearing a short and a long top. I think it's cool. I think it's a different way to take on a much more dressed up vibe and feeling. And then to also do it in this bright yellow is another great example. I feel like it has very Valentino, both pure Paolo-y, bright color and beautiful satins, but also very 1970s, free-flowing, peace, love, and all of the above. Valentino feeling historically too. I'm sold on this. Next up, we are talking about Beyoncé. Now, Beyoncé was on the cover of British Vogue's, July issue? She was on a red horse on its sort of disco floor, the light up disco floors, Saturday Night Fever, other movies about discos, I'm sure you would find them, but there's sort of like a disco-y, clubby sort of feeling on the background. And then Beyonce is wearing an Alaïa fitted dress. So again, Alaïa, a brand about clinginess, it's about fitting to the body. It fits beautifully to Beyonce's body. I believe that this is a dress from the fall 2022 collection. This dress is supposed to sort of cover parts of the face, but it's Beyonce, so like, why would you want to do that? So it's essentially just a really beautifully fitted, clingy, I presume like velvet gown. In the essence and aura of Azadine Alaïa and his work, Peter Mulia does it very, very well. But Beyonce is also wearing a headpiece by Harris Reed. Now this is a large crown headpiece of black feathers that sort of jut out and create like a halo effect. Now I know that people are going to come in the comments and be like, this is the work of the devil. Don't take it that seriously. In my opinion, what this is most definitely referencing is the fact that Beyonce is dropping a new album called Renaissance, but it's, as you might have heard from the song Break My Soul, inspired by house sort of beats, clubby dance music. And so my thought between the horse, which is probably a reference to Bianca Jagger, allegedly coming in on the horse to Studio 54, the very legendary nightclub, wearing Alaïa, a sort of staple of the 1980s, and this sort of big crown headpiece by Harris Reed, referencing the sort of outlandish, over-the-top outfits that you would see at clubs like Studio 54 or from the club kids at places like the clubs that they would go to as club kids. To me, that's sort of what this reference is. It's not Illuminati and you can trust me because I'm not in the Illuminati. I just see a lot of comments. There was demon worship, I'd let you know. I also love the idea of Edward Enninful's Vogue doing a sort of much more maximalist cover for Beyonce. It creates a scene, it creates an essence, it creates a narrative, which I think for a lot of us, that's what we like to see, that sort of over the top fun element. And Beyonce worked with Edward Enninful on this shoot because Beyonce and Edward both are very involved in what they do. So yeah, that's kind of the essence of this cover. And I think that the whole idea of the designs and the styles and all of that sort of all work together into what Beyonce is more than likely putting out. Maybe it's not as like direct reference to Studio 54 and sort of disco or glam rock, which is something that Harris Reed sort of looks to a lot. But it definitely has that essence of the decades, you know, the sort of 70s into the 80s feeling to it. And I tip my hat to Beyonce because everything that she does is always pulling back into the work or works of her past and the brand and her own sort of DNA as an artist and performer. It's very, very smart. She creates her own timelines, and I think that it's something that genuinely has to be respected, whether or not you think the shoot is great or whatever. But Beyonce is always sort of incorporating everything that she does into everything that she does. And I think that's brilliant. I think that's somebody that is a creative director in the utmost and smartest sense. Big Frida says, release the love, forget the rest. And you know what? That's the vibe. Now, next up we have Bretman Rock wearing Diesel. Now, Bretman is wearing a look from the fall 2022 collection. It is a chartreuse t-shirt with a sort of crude little stitch down the front, and then it sort of wraps over a belt that's coming in asymmetrically off of it, and then sort of wraps underneath the belt back, you know, the back of the belt on the shirt, if that makes sense. It's very much so a Glenn Martin's, the construction of Glenn Martin's, but it's done in sort of a denim-y looking fabric, or at least like it looks like it's dyed to sort of resemble denim to some degree, which I think with Diesel, it's a brand that's known for its denim. Look at our Diesel review if you want to break down a Diesel. But it's also paired with a very silky, flowy skirt that has the same sort of double grommeted belt action, and the belt sort of splits off and then creates two different sort of belt styles. And again, it sort of has the belt like wrap into like the crotch a little bit in an intriguing way that's very strange, but at the same time very Glenn Martin's-y. On top of that, there is a matching bag that I presume is also Diesel because it's in the same sort of chartreuse and has a frayed sort of denim edge. I love the look. Honestly, I love the actual like genuine all chartreuse experience. The look is paired with a pair of Kiki boots by Marc Jacobs. I don't hate them. I just don't love them with the look. Like they're just sort of there. They're not elevating it, but they're also not like denigrating it. Otherwise, I think the Diesel look in and of itself is fantastic. It's really cool to see it. I think Bretman pulls it off really, really well. For it being like a tight fitted t-shirt, I think Bretman has the physique for it, and then at the same time has the ability to pull off this very flowy, beautiful skirt. It looks great. The rebirth of the brand is upon us. Keep your eyes posted. Next up, we have Cardi B, and she is wearing Rick Owens Fall 2022. Now, this look is not all Rick Owens because the bathing suit top and bottom are not Rick Owens. Although if Rick Owens did a bathing suit line, I'm sure that people would buy it. But this jacket is Rick Owens and the shoes are most definitely Rick Owens. Now, essentially what has been done here is this thing, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's called styling. It's something that we don't actually see all that much, shockingly, in the fashion industry anymore. That's why I appreciate Colin Carter. So essentially what has been done is this look essentially is kind of like a snood sort of feeling. So the fact that it's like a hood, it's not normally supposed to look like that. It rather like goes over front and sort of creates like a turtleneck situation. But what they've done here is create more of like a jackety feeling to it in the sense of like it has a hood. Cool, it's intriguing. And then the shoes, the boots, are these beautiful sort of shearling light ice baby blue Kiss boots that are thigh high, and by thigh high I mean like very thigh high. Instead of doing the short that was on the runway, what we've done here is sort of make it bathing suit. And I think it's cool. I think it's intriguing. I think it's a fun way to do it. I think it keeps in tune with Cardi's brand and who she is, what she wears, where she comes from. And at the same time, it's still sort of elevating it to this sort of very fashion Rick Owens-y sort of place. Now, I wonder if Cardi bought these things or if Rick Owens lent them to her, because again, if you saw the video about the BET Awards, we discussed the fact that Rick Owens is very, very particular about, at least from my understanding, full look policies and the fact that you have to wear everything. But if that's not the case here, we love to see it. Cardi breaking boundaries in so many different ways. The first face of Balenciaga, Demna, the whole idea of breaking Rick Owens' full look policies. She does it all. She is a talent in so many ways. But overall, I think the look is great. I think it's cool. I think it's very fashion forward. And at the same time, it's like great pieces. And then it's still Cardi-fied. You know what I mean? She's not throwing her own brand to the wind. She's still doing her, which I appreciate. Next up, we have Charli and Dixie D'Amelio. Now, they were attending the MTV Movie and TV Awards. Now, let's talk about Charli first. She is wearing Prada. She is a Prada brand ambassador, I believe, and if she's not, she's very much so associated with the brand. She is wearing a look from the fall 2022 runway. Now, it's just that she stripped it of the sort of beat-up, distressed leather jacket that was worn on top of the look initially. It's essentially a cropped little white tank top with the Prada sort of triangular logo right in the center. And then it's paired with a layered skirt of a brown sort of mini skirt. Then attached to it is a piece of sheer sort of fabric that has orange little floral embroideries going on it. And then there's a rib knit gray panel that sort of ends it out. It is like quintessential Prada. It's weird. It's stitching together a bunch of these different fabrics and styles that don't make any sense to anybody but Miuccia Prada, but it's still beautiful and incorporates these sort of weird, again, fabrics that really juxtapose against each other very harshly, like the gray knit against that really light sheer, and then with the embroidery in that orange. It's very intriguing. It is very Prada, in my opinion. And the tank top has, to me, a much more sort of Raf Simons feeling to it, much more tapping into gay culture, the use of white sort of ribbed tank tops. And I know people are going to say, is that really gay culture? It is. You can look at the history of gay culture, and these sort of tank tops were worn by gay men in the 1960s, the 1970s, the 1980s. I know they're worn by other groups, but that doesn't negate the fact that they are a sort of staple within gay dressing culture. You can look at, Thom of Finland art and images of gay men from that time period. So that's kind of the inspiration for it. I do think it looks cool together. I think Charli is pulling it off, and I want to see her do more things like this. I understand that she needs to sometimes do the commercially elements to sell the sweatshirts and the shorts and the boots from Prada, but I also think that it's important for her to do fashion moments like this to sort of prove that she can do fashion moments like this, and I think she's done it very well. It's very understandable, it's still cool, it's still young, it's still fresh, but at the same time, it has that Prada-ism that makes Prada so Prada. As for Dixie, I wouldn't say the review is going to be as great. It's not that I dislike Dixie, I don't. She's wearing Saint Laurent. This is from spring 2018. It's an older piece. What she's wearing is a baby doll dress in black. It has velvet bra cups that are very rounded, and then a sort of skirt that shoots right out in this black sort of reflective sequin. She's wearing a little tight action and working woman's pump. Just has a sort of corporate feeling to it. I understand that that's what it looked like on the runway, or if this is, I would say this is maybe more of a commercial version of what it was looking like on the runway, but I just think the way that it hits the bra cups at like this quote unquote waist that doesn't exist is really hard to feel comfortable looking at. It's just the dress design is not beloved. It's not great. It's not attractive. I appreciate doing a baby doll dress. I think there's ways to do baby doll dresses where they look stunning and cool. I just don't think this is the way to have done it. Let Dixie become a Saint Laurent woman. I would be fine with that. I think it matches her personality. So I want better for everybody, but next up, we have Chriselle Strauss from Selling Sunset. She's wearing Grace Ling, who is an up-and-coming designer. Essentially, it is a black crop top, which I think is a really cool crop top. I think the way that it's held together with this band is very intriguing. The cut of the crop top is really great. It sort of supports, but it sort of builds itself in from the sides as well, while still sort of being able to showcase cleavage. And then the pants are essentially a deconstructed wide leg, I would say dress pant of some sort. But what we have going on is we can see that a flap of the pants sort of flies over, and there's a sheer panel that sort of, again, sort of creates a very intriguing showcasing of the body sort of manner, but it's a pant that is rather understandable. It's rather commercial. It makes sense. It looks good. It's something you could wear again and again. It's a little bit commercial. It's a little bit, I would say, not super avant-garde. It follows much more of like the Helmut Lang sort of feeling. I would put Grace Ling in the same sort of category as somebody like Nenzi Dojaka, Supriya Lele, but I think it's much more like American sportswear rather than sort of being like super harsh, incredibly intricate, but I don't think it's bad. I think the top and pant are both great pieces. I think they pair together well, and I think they would pair together with other things well too. So I'm here for it. Looks nice. Next up, we have Dwayne Wade, and he is wearing Fear of God. Now, essentially, he's wearing a three-piece suit, jersey suit, in like a light gray. So you have a blazer, simple. You have a little bit of a vest underneath, and then a front pleated pant with a black, simple patent leather shoe and a little darker gray t-shirt underneath. Very Jerry Lorenzo. I don't want to say streetwear because it's not really streetwear. It's more so tailoring, but it's more of a casual tailoring, I would say. The use of like a jersey sort of fabric is much more casual than your usual traditional tailoring fabrics like a tweed or a wool. I think the use of the jersey gives it a little bit more wearability, movement, sports weary. It's not streetwear. I do think that the vest sort of being underneath, or if this is part of the jacket and it just looks like a vest, is a cool way to take on a three-piece suit, the traditional sort of tailoring structure of a vest and a jacket and a pant. Use of the t-shirt underneath again sort of brings in that casual sportswear feeling. The shoes I don't love. I just wish they were a little bit cooler. Maybe like a sneaker or something could have helped sort of even further bring in that casual sportswear feeling. But I appreciate it. I think it's cool. I think Fear of God is a brand that we don't really talk about a lot on here, but maybe we should, because I think Jerry Lorenzo knows what he's doing. I'm not, again, oh my God, wow, so memorable. I'm never going to forget it. I'm going to forget it as soon as we finish, but it looks nice. So next up we have Emma Chamberlain. She is wearing Thom Browne. Now I believe that this is a bustier top and a mini skirt set that is paired with a sort of knee-high Thom Browne 4-stripe sock and a large Thom Browne pump. It looks to be like a sort of Thom Browne-y take on doing mini skirts and bustiers. I think it's very sort of simple in the black. Looks like there is a sort of button in the front situation, so it has a row of sort of buttons down the front. So instead of it just being a sort of all the way flat bustier, it's rather taking on the idea of it being fastened in the front rather than in the back, which I think is intriguing. And it also looks like there's some sort of, I don't want to say fringe because it's not really fringe, but rather a sort of frill at the bottom. It almost looks like there's cut sort of strips. And so the mini skirt sort of wraps around in the front. It's not being done in like cutesy fabric or really flowy or really tight. It's being done in traditional tailoring fabrics, which normally you wouldn't make a bustier and a mini skirt out of, at least in traditional tailoring. And then the pairing it with knee-high socks and the big sort of Thom Browne brogue heel platforms, I think is great. Honestly, like it's not the craziest Emma Chamberlain look in the entire world, but I think it's very chic. I think it's very elegant. I think Emma's been doing a lot of press that I don't think she's trying to be like super crazy avant-garde. I think she's just doing nice, cute looks. And I think that is this. Again, it's sort of subtle differences on traditional tailoring and also the current sort of mini skirt trend and bustiers that we've been seeing. Again, is the most memorable Emma Chamberlain look in the entire world? No, but it looks nice. Next up we have Gigi Hadid, and she is wearing Miss Sohee. I believe she's attending a party, some sort of masquerade. Obviously explains the mask for the masquerade. It's essentially a look from the, Fall 2022 collection. It's a pink bustier that flows into a form-fitting, gorgeous, stunning, I presume organza skirt with beautiful white wave and water embroidery sort of flowing out from this mermaid skirt. And look, like it's cool. I appreciate that Gigi is wearing it. Again, we were sort of discussing the fact that the embroidery on the skirt was inspired by Minhwa art, which is a sort of Korean folk art that depicted different animals, beings, natural settings, landscape. And it's really cool to see Miss Sohee bring that into the lexicon of fashion and sort of do it in a way that's very authentic as somebody that is a South Korean designer. The look is cool. I think it's great. I think the pink plays off the red really, really well. I think the silhouette of it is stunning. I think Gigi has done a great job of pairing the little white arm-length opera gloves and the sort of beautiful little pearlescent pumps. The mask also looks great. It all just like feels natural and works well together. I'm happy to see it, and I hope to see more Gigi Hadid in Miss Sohee as time goes on because it's match made in heaven. Next up we have Harry Styles wearing Arturo Obegero. Now, if you guys remember, for the monthly roast, we talked about Harry Styles in the As It Was video wearing Arturo. I think Arturo is a great designer. The Spanish influences are always there. We can see it in these high-waisted pants, but I like the fact that Arturo here is doing something a little bit more graphic, a little bit more different, and it's not the sequins, because as much as I love that idea, I don't know if it technically worked out in the way that we wanted. Here, though, I think that this look actually captures Arturo's essence. Beautiful high-waisted pants, the Gaudes pants, are a reference to bullfighters and the sort of matador uniforms we see. It's a beautiful sort of homage to Arturo's heritage. But at the same time, we have these sort of beautiful tank top in like a graphic diagonal stripe, which I think is intriguing. Again, it fits so tightly, again, like matador sort of clothing. And I think on Harry, it fits very much so his aesthetic. He has always sort of gone for flare pants or wide-legged pants. He goes for something a little bit more flowy in a blouse sort of area to reference maybe people like David Bowie and Mick Jagger, but I like everything fitting tight like this on Harry, but still keeping those elements that we've seen in his different eras, especially for like the Harry's House era. It still has the album beforehand in terms of clothing, but it's being adapted to be just that little bit different, and I think that's a smart thing to do. And I also love that he's supporting cool young designers that are up and coming. Shout out to Arturo, shout out to Harry and other Harry, shout out to all the Harrys. It's a good look. Not mad. Next up, we have Janet Jackson, and she is wearing a full diesel look from the fall 2022 collection. Essentially, it is that amazing, beautiful, stunning diesel coat that has been sort of torn up and sheared in a denim to look like a faux fur, which I think, again, is really, really cool. I think it proves Glenn Martin's brilliance in the fact that Diesel is a brand about denim. So what you have to do is take that medium and sort of rip it and riff off of it and play it, remix it, rework it in any way that you can to keep it sort of intriguing, interesting, new, avant-garde. And I think this is a good example that being done. I also think for Janet, it looks amazing. I think it's cool. The fact that she's also wearing the pant to shoe in like a full denim, very Glenn Martin's in that aesthetic of it's a pant that's attached to a high-heeled boot, and it has a little crinkle and a wrinkle as we move our way down. And then the white tank top, again, I feel like keeps that idea of simplicity. Diesel is a denim brand in and of itself. So what you want to do is sell denim and a classic sort of ease. Normally you pair denim with a white shirt and everybody and their mother wants to buy it. So it makes sense. I think Janet looks great. I think she looks cool. She looks regal and opulent and elegant, and that's not something you normally think of when you think of denim. But I think she's proving that it can be done so easily. I think it's a great look on her. Lovely, happy to see it. When I saw it, I was like, oh, Janet, I love you. Next up, we have Jenna Ortega, and she was at the MTV Movie and TV Awards, and when I called her Mia Reed at the Met Gala, I apologize. I stand by that apology. But I do like the fact that Jenna is wearing this Valentino Fall 2022 dress. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful dress. We've discussed this ad nauseum, I would say, but the Valentino PP Pink collection had a shit ton of these very vibrant and violent pink, but there was a section that was all black, and here Jenna is wearing one of the looks. It's essentially an off-the-shoulder sleeved little mini dress. It fits beautifully. Like the fact that we can see a little bit of cleavage is cool. It's elegant, elevated. And then the skirt, mini, easy, beautiful, has that nice sort of flare and helps to sort of emphasize the waist shape, but at the same time sort of make it a little bit bulbous in the skirt, get a little bit of volume, a little bit of silhouetting. And then she's wearing it with the shoes. On the runway, evidently there was a tight, but I think that considering she was out and about California awards, I get not wearing the tight. I think the shoes, again, are great. If you're going to wear the Valentino looks, you got to wear the shoes. They're big, they're chunky, they're platforms. I think she looks wonderful. I think stripping down certain things like the gloves and the tights helped sort of give it a much more California context. I think she looks nice, beautifully fitted dress. It's very simple, and that's what it's intending to be, so I'm happy with it. Next up, we have Jennifer Lopez. She's wearing Minot. It's a Minot for me. I like the Minot brand. I think it's cool. I think it's intriguing. I think the cutouts and the sort of showcasing the body and the sexy sort of clinginess is great. I just don't know what's going on with this like leather vest situation over the gown. It's just kind of awkward and weird and doesn't really make sense and looks strange. And I understand Jennifer Lopez doing her thing and all that. It's like an awkward styling piece to place over the dress because it's like a plunging look, and then it's like a gown, but it has a leather vest. It's strange. It doesn't really make sense. It's just not really enticing to the eyeballs, and that's my issue. The skirt like fits fine. The dress without the vest, I don't know what it really truly looks like because the vest is there. Also, the leather vest is like so tight. I presume that it has some sort of boning and all that going on in there, but it's very tight and it sucks in the waist, and that's really, really great. And that allows, the hips and the thighs and the shoulders and all that to sort of very much show a hourglassy figure. It's just an awkward fabric to place over in such a way. So it's, again, a no. Thank you. We appreciate it. Have a nice day. We then had Kylie wearing Mugler. Now, this is from the most recent collection, Spring 2022. Now, it's essentially a dress, I believe, that sort of is a turtleneck dress with sleeves. It has a quote-unquote cutout on the side, and it looks like we have little strips and strings that are meant to sort of, I would say, reflect the idea of like a thong string that comes up. But then underneath, we still have like skin showing. But the thing about this dress is that I believe that those quote-unquote cutouts are actually not cutouts, but rather they are panels of that very, very light nylon that just sits on the body and matches any skin tone or most skin tones because of the lightness of them and the way that they've been designed and developed, which again, shout out to Mugler for doing that. I think this is a great example of like the fitting works. I think it looks good. I think it's sexy. It's fun. Again, it's very Kylie in the sense of bombshell sort of styles. I love the fact that on the sleeves, we can also see that there is that nylon, that ability to sort of show skin without actually having to have it uncovered by fabric. Then we have the new shoes, which are Mugler shoes. I didn't get a chance to talk about these in a Mugler review because I didn't really review that most recent collection. I apologize. But these shoes are essentially prototypes of Mugler's forthcoming shoes. I believe that after a collaboration with Jimmy Choo, Mugler was like, oh shit, like people like our shoes. That's really, really cool. So they started to develop their own shoes, and these are sort of like the first protos. And later, I would say within a year or so, I think the shoes, these heels that have the same sort of fitted, contoury sort of styles that suck into the body are meant to eventually come out from Mugler. And again, it's Casey Cadwallader sort of building out these brand categories and market categories that Mugler for a long time hasn't had or had and then sort of faded away. But overall, I think it's cool. I think it works. I think it's intriguing. Kylie's showing off different proto categories without having actually been in that most recent Mugler video. So I like it. Picasso. Next up, we have Lana Condor. She is wearing Valentino Fall 2022 to the MTV Movie and TV Awards. It's a baddie. It's not a baddie as in like, oh my god, a baddie. It's more of like a, oh, that's a baddie. Essentially, it's that violent PP pink. But what we've done here is we've kept the high-waisted tights and we have a sort of pink bandeau, but the jacket dress, instead of it being closed, has been left open, and it looks really awkward and weird and confusing because like the sleeves are baggy, but then again it like comes in at the waist and sort of fits. When we look at it on the runway, it was closed, and I'm not saying that on the runway it's the best look. It's really not, but it looks far worse here. I appreciate that she's wearing the shoes and sort of trying to go for it and doing the whole thing, but it just doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, just quit. Let's not do something quirky and cool and different. Like, it doesn't fit. That's it. There's nothing you can do about it. And then because it doesn't fit for whatever reason, it looks really weird here because it's like an open jacket with a bra, high-waisted tight, and she looks awkward. And maybe it's just the photo, but even if it looks weird, you gotta sell it. You know what I mean? Like, you can't stand there like, you have to sell the garment. Like, that's the thing. That's what has to happen. You have to perform. You have to act as an actor. You gotta give a little bit of a performance on the red carpet so that people are like, oh my god. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, we're standing like this. And it looks stiff and uncomfortable, and I feel uncomfortable, and she looks uncomfortable, and everybody then feels uncomfortable because we're all feeling uncomfortable. It's just not great. So that's my issue here. Not good. Next up, we have Lisa from Blackpink in Celine. She was out and about for the Celine menswear show, and she's wearing Celine Winter 2022. Now, essentially, it is a dress that is a sequin halter style. It shows a lot of side sort of experiences. On the runway, there was nothing sort of underneath to cover it up. Very Eddie Slimane. But on Lisa, we can obviously see that there's some sort of black bra situation going on. The one issue is on the runway, that skirt, it's rough. It's not a great looking skirt. It's a little bit corporate. It sort of really clashes hard against the sequins. But I think because Lisa and whoever is styling Lisa put that belt on, it gives it a little bit like, it's not the same dress. It's a top put into a skirt. I also think the length of the skirt looks shorter, which I think is also helpful because the shorter that skirt is, the better, because there's less of it that we have to see. And it looks like on the runway, it's like a weird length. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a little bit too long. It's a little bit too awkward. And sometimes skirts just hit at awkward lengths and it's weird and nobody knows what to do about it. Evidently, Lisa's stylist does, because we just chopped it up a little bit. And honestly, like, she's transforming a look that I would say is questionable on the runway into something that is not questionable and looks pretty good. Again, it's Celine, so the brand in and of itself is not trying to be crazy kooky, over-the-top avant-garde, especially with Eddie Slimane's work. Very simple, French, chic, elegant. That's the brand's origin. With the halter sort of style, you have that very 1970s-esque history and being involved there, which I also can appreciate. And what the halter came about in the 1940s, which is when Celine as a brand was also started. I think 1945 is when it was begun. We're layering those references via Mr. Slimane. So I appreciate it. I think she looks good. I think she looks nice. Whoever styled her did a great job of sort of circumnavigating certain issues with the dress and with how much skin it was going to show. Next up, we have Lisa, and she's wearing ping pong. Now, this is to that Bulgari event, so like that's why she's wearing this yellow. I presume as her and Anne Hathaway were like, we see each other. It's essentially a really simple strapless bandeau sort of crop top and a high-waisted floor-length skirt. Now, ping pong is a South Korean brand. I haven't heard of it, so I don't really know a lot about the house codes and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not going to like go into it. It might be a brand that's just very simple. It's meant to be sort of nice, easy, understandable basics. And I guess also with a Bulgari event, the jewelry is meant to sort of be the thing that like takes the cake that everybody's looking at. It seems like she's wearing some sort of silver diamondy and emerald necklace and earrings. I feel like maybe a green look would have been a better choice, just, you know, to pull those elements together. I don't hate it, I just don't love it. I mean, it's not like a hideously fitted situation. She doesn't look bad, she doesn't look terrible. It's just not, I would say, as intriguing as that Anne Hathaway look, if that makes sense. Because the Anne Hathaway look was the short with this floor-length shirt, which gave it a little bit of difference. I appreciate, again, that we're doing a high-waisted skirt with a crop top and that it has a floor-length element. So again, it is elevating these styles that are usually a little bit more casual, two-piece sets, usually something you wouldn't wear to like a white tie event, etc., etc. Not that this is a white tie event, but something as high classy as this. But I think, again, it gives a good example of taking those casual sort of cuts and making it more intriguing. I do wish there was a little bit more of an intrigue to it. Still want a little bit more. Next up, we have Lizzo, and she is wearing Valentino. Now, this is that Valentino PP pink look. She's also standing next to Lonnie Love. Shout out Lonnie Love. Essentially, I think the look is cute. I think it works. I think it makes sense. I like Lizzo being a fashion girl. She, I think, recently is really like stepping up, and she looks great here. The gloves with the tights and the shoes all are fun and intriguing. And then the dress in and of itself is pretty much just a baby doll dress, you know, straps, fitted, little flair in the terms of the gathering situation that's going on. It creates texture, it creates intrigue. Baby doll dress, when you pair it with the tights and the big platforms, it looks good. I also think a baby doll dress is like a great sort of silhouette for Lizzo, and I think this is also a good example of the fact that a baby doll dress doesn't always have to be also like a sack, if that makes sense. Like, it can fit to the bust, it can fit to the body, but it creates that sort of little layer of space and sort of grander silhouettes as you hit the waist down. I think it's cute. I'm happy about it. Love it for Lizzo. Keep on doing this because it is going very well. Next up, we have Maddie Ziegler, and she is wearing Carolina Herrera. Now, this is from the pre-fall collection, I believe, for 2022. Essentially, it's a large tulle gown. It looks like it's essentially strapless, at least on the underside, and it has a few cutouts. So it goes from red, strapless sort of neckline to then a little jut of pink, and then it sort of turns into a skirt that is wrapped very, very tightly all around in red again, and then sort of flows vertically down and creates a sort of large tulle mermaid skirt or trumpet skirt effect. I would say it's more trumpet, but the intriguing element more so comes in the red loofah'd tulle that sort of descends down one side and then sort of comes around and creates a little bit of a wrap around the thigh area, so it moves in a intriguing manner. But the elements on the top of the dress, from the red neckline to the pink sort of midsection cutout jut to the red sort of gathered skirt section 2, all coincide with the colors of the loofah as it descends down. So it goes from red, a little pink section, and then red again, and sort of swoops around the back of the dress. The loofah dress tulle situation, it's kind of like been there, done that, have 45 million versions of the t-shirt. There are a few brands that I would say more or less have sort of cadence to use it as much as they like because it's kind of what they built their brands on. And somebody like a Giambattista Valli, Goddard, a Tomo Koizumi. Those brands I always give a pass to because, again, house code, it's important, it's what people recognize. Carolina Herrera to me is not a brand that one necessarily would say, oh, tulle dress. But it's something that Wes Gordon, who's a Korean creative director, has been sort of pushing a lot more recently. I will say, and to give credit where credit is due, it's an intriguing take. I'm not saying I love it, but it's intriguing. The fact that you have the loofahs sort of descending down in an asymmetrical manner, coinciding with gathering pink sort of tulle elements in the actual strapless fitted gown, I applaud. I also think for Maddie, who's somebody who's a dancer, who's all about movement and now sort of transitioning into acting and things like that, why hide the body? I also don't love the way it's shot because I think from the front it's a little bit awkward and weird, and I know that that's how the dress is supposed to look. It'll come back. Don't throw away your tulle dresses with the loofah effects, but Just give it some time. Just right now is not that time. Next up, we have Natalie Portman, and she is wearing Iris Van Herpen. Now, this was for, I believe, Vanity Fair or the Hollywood Reporter or something like that. But she's wearing old Iris Van Herpen, which I love. This first dress, because there's two different Iris Van Herpen looks, is a look from the fall 2017 Haute Couture collection. And essentially, it is a turtleneck cocktail dress with a beautiful sort of sleeve. It looks like she's wearing armor. And I know that she's doing this Thor movie, so like I presume that maybe that's what it is. It's a reference to sort of outer space and etherealness and armor and battle and hammers and shit like that, but it's a great dress. The fact that it looks like some sort of futuristic cyber chainmail is very, very cool. The fact that it's probably made up of, oh, I don't know, like hand-placed silicone pieces that were hand-molded, and she just looks like somebody out of Star Wars, and she was in Star Wars, so that would make sense. I think the way that it's shot is really, really brilliant. It adds a sort of intriguing element to it. The light reflects off of it beautifully. It just has a cool feeling to it, and I love the fact that we're pulling out old Iris Van Herpen pieces because they deserve to be pulled out more often than they do get pulled out. So love it. It looks amazing. The sleeves on it are so intriguing. The shoulders create like a sloped sort of effect. The way that it fits is amazing. These sort of squiggles of fabric create this weird texture, and the light shines off of the texture. It's a great, weird, cool, amazing dress. Next up, we have Nicole Richie. She's wearing Paco Rabanne. Now, this is a great sort of Paco look. The mixture of the gold and the silver sequins are great. It's a crop top and skirt by Julian de Sena. Now, we have a sort of turtleneck style that starts in a gold and then descends slowly down into a silver. Has a little nice sort of shoulder, crisp, clean, easy, full sleeves, a little bit of a bell sleeve at the end. Again, in that silver, we have the cropped element, and then we sort of see the skirt. Beginning, it's a little bit high-waisted skirt, starts in the silver, so it's meeting where the silver ended on the crop top, meeting it in the middle. And then as we hit the sort of frilled waistband and waist skirt gathered area, it's a frilled waistband in silver, and then we hit a sort of simple, flat section of silver sequins, but out of that sprouts a gold gathered layered skirt. It's a midi skirt, again, very 1960s. That's where Paco Rabanne really thrived. Normally you think about the chainmail and all those sorts of elements, and we can see that in the bag that she is carrying. It's very Paco with the chains and the mails and all that, but I think the use of the gold and the silver sequins gives it a little bit more of a modern feeling, gives it the ability to sort of be more wearable, even though it's obviously a whole lot of look. But I appreciate it. I like Nicole Richie sort of stepping out and doing something crazy and kooky and fashion forward. It's fun. It looks nice. She looks great in mini skirt. Want to see more of it. Like to see Julian de Sena, Paco Rabanne, always and forever. Next up, we have Olivia Rodrigo, and she was at the MTV Movie and TV Awards. It's a Jean Paul Gaultier dress. It's vintage. I still don't know what the f is going on here. It's a disturbing image. It's bad. I don't know what's going on with the stylist, but whoever it is, it's getting uncomfortable for me. It's a bit weird. Essentially, it's a crisscross applesauce halter dress. It's a fitted sort of bodycon dress as well. It does have alluding elements to Jean Paul Gaultier, sort of cone bra, bustier, sort of stitch bra, circular details and elements, Madonna, Blonde Ambition, all that sort of jazz. It's just done in black instead of white, and also it's attached to a bodycon dress instead of a business suit. So yeah, also like the front zip up is weird. It looks a little bit like 13 going on 30, and that was great because it was like a themed movie. But I'm not saying that if I saw Jennifer Garner in real life wearing the 13 going on 30 look, I'd be like, oh my god, amazing. I'd be like, is she well? Does she need help? Is she okay? What's happening? How do we fix this? Why couldn't she have pulled the Jean Paul Gaultier haute couture? We think Jean Paul Gaultier was going to be like, no, absolutely not. That's no, disgrazia, we would never. I'm confused. Next up, we have Priyanka Chopra, and she's wearing Robert I. Beautiful dress. Essentially, it's a form-fitting black dress with a halter sort of style, but in the usual Robert I style, these beautiful pleats erupt out like a bunch of beautiful flowers under mushrooms, fungi, botanical, natural organisms. The way that they wrap around not a symmetrical way, but rather their own sort of odd, strange way where it branches out from the waist and it's small, and then it gets big as it reaches around the collar, comes back down to the waist, even larger, descends down the side of the body to, like, it's different, it's cool. I think Priyanka looks amazing. I'm appreciative that she even sort of did it, because it's a whole lot of dress, but I think she's pulling it off. I think she looks wonderful. She's supporting a cool young designer who is very, very forward thinking and smart. And it's just a cool way to sort of take on the usual black fitted dress that we know and make it memorable and exciting and stunning and gorgeous and intriguing, and keeping in touch with Robert One's work, why his work is important. So I'm a huge stan. I think this looks great. I think it looks crazy. Shout out to Priyanka, Robert One. Wonderful job. Next up, we have Shea Coulee, who is also wearing Robert One. Now, Shea wore this on RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 7. And when I saw it, I was like, I have to discuss it. This is a look from a recent Robert One collection. And the thing that I love about it ever so much is it's this layering of these pleats and the colors and sort of this chevron-y sort of feeling. The challenge, I believe, was veils. So there is this little yellow hat that we see, and underneath this yellow hat is a pleated veil. So it's a light yellow, and then it's trimmed a sort of more opaque yellow. Super cool, interesting way to take on the veil. But it's a large silk top that is pleated and gathered at the back. And then underneath that is a sort of array of pleated styles. It starts with a red that sort of fans out in this like swallowtail movement. You know, it's sort of like a triangular shape down. Very Robert One. We get a sort of peachy pink of sorts, which again sort of fans out in that swallowtail movement. And then we have a darker blue sort of skirt that, again, pleated. And then underneath that, I presume is some sort of little fitted sheath dress that has a pleated sort of mermaid effect. Again, doing that swallowtail sort of triangular fallout. Looks great. Super happy with it. Very fashion forward. Cool way to take on, you know, the veil challenge. And at the same time, wearing a cool young designer. Not having somebody knock off said cool young designer and wearing it on the runway, but rather pulling it from the designer and just going for it. Next up, we have Symone, and she is wearing David Coma. Now, this is a sort of simple David Coma look, I guess, in the grand scheme of David Coma, but it's a feather neckline off the shoulder dress with a fitted sort of skirt that has a big old slit. So it's cool. I like it. I think Symone also looks beautiful in it. Like, she looks stunning. It's a nice dress. I mean, the David Coma is like beautiful, sexy. She can pull it off, obviously, no problem. It's nice. I'm not, oh my God, dying over it. I'd like to be, oh my God, dying over looks from Symone, because I think she can do it. It's just, I guess, getting the ability to pull the peeps. But maybe this is a good stepping stone, because she looks great. I just want more fashion from her, and I know that she can provide that. Next up, we have Sydney Sweeney. She's wearing Miu Miu. Now, this is a custom look. It's a little white crop top, button-up shirt. Cleavage is on display. And then we have a sort of crystallized skirt with two big sort of belt situations going on, a little slit. It's nothing crazy. And then we have like a Mary Jane pump shoe situation and metallic reflective silver. I appreciate the going for it, most definitely. Sydney x Miu Miu is good. I think it works for the most part. I just don't think this look is like the moment that we thought it was gonna be. I appreciate sticking to the whole idea of the crop sort of styles and going to like schoolgirl sort of feelings and vibes and giving it a little bit more like Britney Spears, Y2K, crystallization-ishness. It's there, but it's not delivering. I think also maybe it's like a whole selling attitude. We need to sell it a little bit more. Next up, we have Tessa Thompson, a star, always and forever. She's wearing the New York-based brand Puppets and Puppets. I love it. I think this is a great dress. Essentially, it's a strapless dress with a snake skin motif, you know, pythons or anacondas. I have not been around either of those snakes or any snakes really in person, so take my snake knowledge with a lot of salt, not a grain, but a whole handful. I'm not getting any closer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to learn that much. But the great thing about this dress is these big sort of like bow pieces in the back that move and groove. They do sort of have a whole life to them. And I just love Tessa Thompson because she takes risks. Like, this is a risky dress to wear. And it's great. And it's cool. And it's fun. And it's exciting. And it's what celebrities should be doing when they're doing fashionable things. So Tessa Thompson constantly giving me life. I appreciate her ever so much. Next up, we have Zaya Wade, and she is wearing Loewe. Now, this is from the Spring 2022 collection. It is essentially a sort of fitted, clingy sheath dress, but what's gone on with Jonathan Anderson is elements of wiring has sort of been created to almost create abstract shapes that seem like they're almost trapped inside of the garment, which is something that we've been seeing a lot of recently in the past 2 collections from him. And the other great thing about this look is that Zaya also was wearing a wonderful pair of Loewe rose heels. So the heels, like the actual heel, the end of it is a flower. It's like a red rose, which again, I think is really, really cool. It's one of the more intriguing sort of styles of accessories that we've seen. You know, they're kitschy, they're weird, they're strange, but they're also beautiful and intriguing, and they make you think about abstract fashion and things of that nature. I think Zaya looks great. It's intriguing. It doesn't look so strange on her in a way that it's like, oh, what is that? It's more of like a, oh, what is that? I'm confused. I need to know. So I love the fact that she's going out of the box, even though the boxes are inside of the dress. The calls are coming from inside the house. But it's great. It's cool. Happy to see it. Excited for more. I mean, like, her parents are also very fashion-y, so it seems like taste is blessed down. Next up, we have Zendaya, and she is wearing Bob Mackie. Now, this is a vintage style, and it's from the brand's Fall 1998 collection. I did as best as I could trying to find images of this on the runway. I couldn't. I've looked on all my little sources that I usually go to in order to find an old sort of runway show that is more obscure, and it wasn't in any of those places. I checked the Bob Mackie book. There was nothing there. I called Cher. She said, I don't know. It was tough. Regardless, let's discuss this gown. So essentially it's made up of black and velvet panels. Some are sort of like a lighter green, others are more of like a dark green. And then they sort of almost like braid themselves into the black velvet. And from the back, we can see that there's a panel of the darker green that sort of juts out from the back. Meanwhile, the lighter green sort of comes in and sort of drapes itself over in a diagonal sort of fashion. It's honestly not strange to see Zendaya in Bob Mackie. Now, when Anya Taylor-Joy and Laura Roach were working together, Laura Roach pulled a Bob Mackie style for Anya Taylor-Joy that was reminiscent of the My Fair Lady dress that was worn by Audrey Hepburn in the film My Fair Lady, designed by Hubert de Givenchy. And so it's not a strange thing for Laura Roach to pull out of his own personal archive Bob Mackie vintage styles. Honestly, the gown is really, really nice. It's lovely to see. It's cool to see runway styles from Bob Mackie collections of days gone by. I'm not obsessed with it. It's not like the most amazing Zendaya moment that I've seen by a long shot. It's not horrible. It's just a nice one to put in the slot machine and say, it works. It's there. It's happened. I'm not mad about it. It's cute, but we want more, especially as like she was the time 100 human being. But I feel like maybe it'll happen when Zendaya is working on a new project or something to do that sort of method dressing styles. It's cute. That is the end of this June 2022 fashion roast. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Let's talk about best and worst. Best, I'm going to give it to You Won't Break My Soul, Beyoncé, Alaïa, a little Gigi Hadid, Miss Sohee moment. Most definitely. Tessa Thompson, Pups of Puppets. Natalie Portman, In the Ears Van Herpen, Priyanka Chopra, and Robert One. As for worst, Olivia Rodrigo and that Jean-Paul Gaultier is front and center. Lana Condor, Valentino was pretty rough. Those were like the egregious experiences. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts, opinions, comments, concerns, critiques. I will see you guys in the next one, and TTYL.